New moon in Cancer coming right up here, 5th July 2024, 22:57 UTC. So it's this new moon in Cancer, this newness, the new moon, the moon being seated by the sun every month it happens, and it gives us some refreshed energy in a certain sector of our chart, an opportunity to do something new and fresh. Check your whole sign house, your Cancer whole sign house. Those topics are some of the main topics in play for good energy here in the summer of 2024. That last full moon in Capricorn on my channel, where I break it down in the first part of that video, the context, the ephemeris or the ephemeridal context of this moment. But just know, this is really some of the best energy we're gonna have for a while. There's always pockets every year. There's multiple little mini pockets of good energy, and this is one, this new moon. In one way, just appreciate it and take care of it and try to embrace some really nice energy here at the beginning of July. But just to quickly lay it out, Venus in Cancer, the sign of its day triplicity with the luminaries, that adds some lovely energy. Mars and Saturn are not making hard aspects to the cardinal axis right now, so that's removed. And the sign, now we're angular to the lunar nodes, but not in the sign of those lunar nodes, so it's not an eclipse. This is maybe the best little pocket we're gonna have. Take advantage of it. But just to remind us a little bit what's happening in the ephemeris, Mars and Uranus are gonna conjoin mid-month here, right near that fixed star Algol. Mars, Uranus on Algol conjunction, it adds another layer of the roughness to the theme here mid-month. We might have to be getting into some of that, oppressed feminine and trying to use our defense powers to defend ourselves. I'm not gonna go too much into that, but that Algol might add another layer of the martial right here mid-month. I think it's the 15th of July. We'll have Mars entering Gemini, 20th of July. The sign-based square begins that will peak and perfect in mid-August, the malefic square, this summer's malefic mutable square. That happens after this new moon in Cancer, and then all of August, Mercury retrograde. So that's just a little bit of a summary of why this time is easier and softer and more relaxing, setting aside the Cancer symbolism, Cancer being home and comfort and all of that good energy. I'm here enjoying the beach here, enjoying the water. One other theme of this Cancer new moon moment, especially for anybody who has a lot of Cancer placements or water placements, one trick with astrology is look at the elements of the signs that are being activated. Look at your chart. What elements do you have? Particularly moon, which can be body safety and comfort. If you have a water moon, a moon in Cancer, a moon in Pisces, even a moon in Scorpio, sometimes water can be healing, just to be in the element and its manifestation in our world. And so big theme, get around some water. Where is your water? Where is water for you right now? Especially a new moon with Venus and those luminaries. It might be that you find pleasure, safety, and comfort around water at this time. Taking a bath, going to a lake, going by a river, just listening to water and the audio of water might calm you and comfort you here. That might be one way into this moment. But let's quickly break down the derived house themes for this new moon in Cancer. And right away we have to discuss the moon being in the first house. We're going to derive from the sign of Cancer. Venus then in Cancer means that we might want to prioritize beautification of the selfhood. We might want to prioritize our appearance on a higher octave, on a higher spiritual octave. We might want to think about our role in this reality. Who am I? What am I? What am I doing here? And in order to get into that question and to start delineating that for ourselves, we might want to use Venusian tactics to delineate this query that's never ending of who is the self and who am I. So what are Venusian tactics? Music and painting and art and femininity and women, the women in your life. Put that around you and use feminine approaches to try to answer who am I. Look, we all have a feminine, all right? There's always feminine and masculine inside of everybody, an anima and an animus. And so this might be a time, if there ever was one this summer, to feel into more of our feminine side, our anima, and tap into some of our femininity. So the search for self, the search for identity, deploying Venusian tactics to maybe initiate some new answers to the ongoing and always extant search for identity in this realm. And you might think about mother or lunar themes. Where did we come from? Where did you come from? What's your mother like? How did your relationship with your mother, your grandmother, how did that maternal line in your family form you? This might be a place to go into some of those conversations about how our maternal figures formed who we are and who we've become, but in a good way, in a loving way. These are very supportive symbols, and so it might be worth acknowledging like the love that was there, if there was love. And for some of you, there's some major love that you had from the mother and what that gave you to form the stability of the self. I think a big part of this conversation. Now, we've got to acknowledge Jupiter as the other ruler of Cancer. And by the way, this is as a lot of you know who follow my content, I mean, I love signology and I love digging into the symbolism of signs, but using the multiplicity of rulers. So I call them the whole sign rulers. Every sign has multiple planets that rule every degree of that sign, primarily domicile, exaltation, and triplicity, or I think those are the only forms of whole sign rulership, but I don't want to say only because there's always obscure texts and obscure techniques. But what are those whole sign rulers? Well, over Cancer, if we just focus on that top level, domicile is the moon, so we've talked a little bit about here, and that's in the first house. Identity through that maternal lineage. We've got Jupiter as the exaltation lord of Cancer, and that is in the 12th sign from Cancer in Gemini. So this is a 12th house Jupiter moment. Let's come right in to this and embrace these themes of the 12th house. Back to the signology of Cancer. What is Cancer? Yes, it's the mommy and the container and all of the crab, mama, protector, brood type energy. So we know it's that. It's the body. That's why the crab has that container. It finds a body to house itself. So it's like our body as the container of our soul. That's the Cancerian. But it's Jupiter. And this is where you get the side of the Cancer archetype. You only get it through Jupiter, which is that you're the search for truth, the profundity of the big picture of the nature of reality. And you see that that then combines with the theme of encasement and mother to form this perfect entryway into topics like the matrix of reality. What is true reality? What is the true nature of the construction of existence? You know, Mother Gaia, the vibrating interconnective home that we all share. This is how Jupiter comes into the Cancerian. And I think ultimately when we are like exploring the encasements we've come from through the maternal lines, like I've just talked about before, we're really asking deeper questions like the mystery of life itself, the biological womb that we've all emerged from, the mystery of biology, how a spermatozoa finds an egg and then that creates that spark of lightning and we're then produced. Like you're with the Cancerian brought right into the questions of what is a human being, who are we, and where did we come from? So there's this powerful depth. And then you're brought into the idea of engaging that in a direct way in terms of how we want to function. Like we love our children. Why? Because it's the mystery of life. We're going to protect the mystery. It doesn't have to be biological children. It can be the children everywhere, right? These are all my brothers and sisters and all my sons and daughters. We're in a collective, unified field of being. And that is also this Jupiterian side of the Cancerian. And so we have to bring that in here. And I feel very passionately about this. That's why I'm kind of going off on this tangent. So the moon is the body, the emotions. A lot of times people talk about the moon being the emotions. I love for this moment that Jupiter's in the 12th house because one of my favorite keywords for the 12th house is retreat, which is like a home. Often these types of retreats are born out of necessity, out of the 12th house, where we're retreating to get safety. And I wonder about this context of time in our astrology where we had those eclipses, we had some intenser energies with those squares from Saturn to Gemini last month, and now we can kind of retreat a little bit here in the middle of 2024 into some kind of safe place or safe space to prepare for the rest of the year. Sometimes it's only through, dare I say, isolation or like insularity, protective separation, you might say, a theme of the 12th house. Only through that are we able to get into wisdom somehow. So like I was just out here on this ocean. I was floating by myself, just meditating a little bit in a kind of isolation in the water or with the water. It was a perfect 12th house style moment for me. The notion of the moon, Vettius Valens says the moon is the ruler of foresight. And I think this relates to how the body is a location for intuitive knowing. A lot of times people say feeling it in the body or the gut. That's how you can feel to the future. You know a little bit about what's coming because you feel bodily reactions and bodily responses. Cancer is the sign of this new moon, but then Jupiter's in the 12th. Jupiter also wisdom and gaining knowledge. There's something here about maybe retreating into the body and using our intuitive sense of the physicality to discover maybe our next move. Maybe some of you out there are unsure about your life right now or something. And I think this new moon might be a good time to just kind of retreat a little bit and feel intuitively what you might know about where you want your future to go or where you want to be or who you are going to be here as we move through 2024. Someone gave me this advice, I forgot who it was at some point, but basically if you're ever unclear or you're like feeling tension or anxiety or lack of certainty, you can always just retreat and go into like even a 2 or 3 day, like just say, I don't know, admit you don't know, and then just get quiet and try to feel into an answer. See what emerges when you just decline all possible options. And you just say, nope, 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 say no to everything until something kind of emerges that you've said no to it 20 times, but it still comes. through the idea that you gave space for all choices to have a seat at the table. This could be Jupiter in Gemini, retreating into the multiplicity of knowledges or the multiplicity of options as a way to face the adversities of life. The 12th house is also other people. It's the collective. It's the collective wounds and the collective suffering. And in this moment here, summer 2024, there is a lot of collective suffering and we can all feel what's coming. And I'm going to be talking more about it, but 2025 is going to be the year of the Great Trigger. That might be the title of my year ahead for 2025, the Great Trigger. Also thinking 2025, the most important year of the century. But that 2025 astrology, as everything changes signs in about an 18-month period in terms of those Barbeau outer planets will all change signs. Pluto will be in the anaretic degree of Capricorn here later this year. You'll have Neptune in the anaretic degree of Pisces a bunch over the next period. You'll have Uranus in the anaretic degree of Taurus. Those anaretic degrees are unstable because things are changing and we're having a period of instability that could manifest difficulty, you know? And so as the collective undergoes challenge and difficulty, this might be something like you turn on news headlines and you see suffering and it moves your heart. How are we bringing our version of truth, wisdom, and justice into that collective moment? I mean, everybody's got a role to play. I don't care how small your sphere of influence is, you've got some kind of role to play. Bringing your compassionate heart, your maternal, loving heart of wisdom into these collective moments of suffering. Jupiter in the 12th house, ruling the first house. The Venus and the Moon in the first, that's your tenderness, your lunar and Venusian tenderness, combined within this wisdom deployment for the collective suffering and the collective woundedness. That's also a major theme of this moment that I want to evoke here in this video. The election for the waxing phase. Now we get a new moon, we wax into that second full moon in Capricorn this summer. That'll happen, I think, 21 July, 22 July, something like that. But this waxing phase, where can we find some elections? Where can we initiate? You know, again, the electional astrology right now isn't as good in the sense that every axis has blockage. The fixed axis confronts Mars and Taurus, the mutable axis has to confront Saturn and Pisces, and then the cardinal axis, of course, has the lunar nodes. And there was two charts I wanted to pick this waxing phase. And first, and I'll just go in order. The first is the 7 July moon in Leo applying to Mercury and applying to Jupiter. That moon, I think, is interesting because the sun and moon are an exchange of signs in Cancer, Leo. Signs that some astrologers say the luminaries co-rule. So you have this kind of powerful sun and moon, and Mercury is still direct, it's visible, it's a evening star. Venus is getting closer and closer to emerging out from the sun's beams, though still in Cancer. I've got a Miami, Florida election here for 2:15 p.m. in the afternoon on the 7th of July. That chart has a very beautiful Venus on the midheaven and Libra rising. So you can get a chart like that. Some of the best energies here to maybe, if you're having to initiate in this pocket of time, just know in this chart that moon is in the fixed axis. It's not quite to Mars yet, and it's protected by the conjunctions to Mercury and then the rays that Jupiter will send. And that's what we have to do often when there's problematizations in an axis. You have to then go sub and try to get the moon applying and protected by other planets to get safe from Mars, safe from Saturn, safe from the lunar nodes. And then the second chart, the 13 July chart, it's similarly problematic, and this is a Libra moon. This moon is far enough away, I think, from the south node that it's not as much of a problem. This moon is averse to Mars and Saturn, and so we like that. It's not having those Mars throttles and the Saturnine limits. And by sign, it's aspecting both benefics, and in this chart, it's applying to the sun, which it rules. The sun and Cancer are ruled by this moon, and it's separating from Mercury. The moon gets a lot of nice protection. There's some nice things to like about this chart. And again, I would say these are charts that you want to deploy if you're having to initiate, if you're looking for things to do. Really, if you're waiting for some kind of huge project, I would say later in the year you're probably going to find some better elections. But those are the two charts that I'm picking for this moment in time. All right, that's your new moon in Cancer video. Glad to be with you. Thanks for being here. You know, loving this summer, appreciating what we have while we have it before I think the world goes into some really dynamic changes. It's like we're being sucked into a vortex that we will emerge out of later in the decade. And that's how I see this summer, this Cancer moon moment, Venus with the luminaries, protecting us and letting us enjoy a little bit of the world of Mother Gaia. So I hope you're gonna get to do that some. Always go to my website, sjanderson144.com, check out my reading schedule there. Yeah, we'll talk real soon. I'll be doing a full moon live for my next luminary video, full moon live. I'll publish that a few days in advance, 3 or 4 days in advance, so you'll have that. Join that if you like. I'll be answering questions there. I like having those live so I can just engage. You can ask all the questions and I'll hang out, you know, at least an hour. But all right, talk soon. Peace. Take care. Bye-bye.